Welcome to the Phoenix Prosperity Podcast, where wealth meets legacy. Join your host, Tim Fergestad, as we explore the journeys of Phoenix's finest to success and beyond.
Hello, this is Tim Fergestad. Thank you for joining us. I'm very pleased to have Denise Chaffin with me here today. Denise is the founder and CEO of TopSource Talent, a talent acquisition specialist and host of Talking TA podcast. Welcome to the show, Denise.
Thank you, Tim. It's nice to be here.
Excellent. Well, why don't you start by giving us a snapshot of your business right now?
My business currently is talent acquisition, staffing. We work as a third-party agency, if you would. A lot of people call us third-party. Okay. I like to refer to us as business partners to all of the companies out there who don't want to hire their own internal talent acquisition teams, or who have maybe certain ramps during certain parts of the year, you know, where they might hire more than others, and they don't need it. They don't need an internal team all year round. Okay. So we have been in business since 2013. Is when I started TopSource Talent. And prior to that, though I've been in the business a lot longer than that, I started in the late 80s. I ran into somebody at a funeral who had asked me what I was doing at the time. And I said, well, I'm working for the newspaper. I was working for the Arizona Republic at the time. Okay. And he said, how do you like it? And I said, the company's great, but, you know, it's a grind, 8 to 5 grind, driving to downtown Phoenix every day, trying to find a place to park without having to pay for a meter. I said, it's just a pain. So a couple of days later, he called me and brought me in to interview, and I've been doing recruiting ever since. And but I started out on my own, though, in the early 90s with another business partner that I had here in Phoenix. And then in the mid 90s, he left and went to go work for one of our clients. And so full time. And so then I, kept running the business. And then when I moved to Colorado in 2012 is when I took on a different partner and we started TopSource Talent. So. Okay. How's the industry changed over the years? That's a very great question. The industry is very cyclical, always has been. And I don't know that will ever change. Some years we always made the joke, you're either eating macaroni and cheese or you're eating filet mignon. There's no middle ground, right? But yeah, I think that you have to be smart when you're in this business. You have to, when you're making good money, you need to save it because there's going to be downturns. The end of 22, for example, we kind of hit the skids a little bit because we support the semiconductor industry heavily. Really? And so yes. And so the semiconductor industry kind of went flat for a while. And so, you're kind of hustling more to get, keep business going and whatnot. But the high tech industry in general has always been very good. It's always, kind of got a steady upward trend, even though it might take some dips like last year. So particularly here in Phoenix, right? Is that where you do most of your placement? No, actually, we work coast to coast. We actually work globally. Most of our clients now are global clients, believe it or not. The semiconductor industry, even if you have a U.S.-based company, oftentimes they're going to have regional offices in other parts of the world. And so we've supported them, Asia Pacific, South America, Europe, Canada, Mexico, so we've supported, all the regions. Yeah. Okay. Very impressive. Okay. Sorry, you could go ahead and continue. You were talking about how it's changed. So the market is good. We expect it to pick up. This was an election year. Right before an election, everything kind of goes quiet, I think, in all industries because everyone. And it's funny too, Tim, because over the years, I've always said, I don't know what difference it makes. Because regardless of who is elected, regardless of which administration, left or right administration we have in office, people just get back to work after an election. Right. So the outcome of an election doesn't necessarily hinder, the economy, if you will, in terms of hiring and moving forward. It just seems like everybody kind of puts the brakes on before the election and starts the gas up again after the election is over. So that's what we're seeing already now. So it's no different this year, even though it was a more contentious election this year. I don't see the precursor to the election or the outcome of the election making any difference in the way our industry runs.
Sure. Your businesses in general are very confidence based, our economy. And so when there's uncertainty over the election, everybody just sort of sits on the
Exactly.
sideline for a little bit.
Well, there's always uncertainty over an election,
Sure.
always, But this year, I think it was longer. I think it lasted, the uncertainty started earlier and lasted later, than what we've seen
Okay.
maybe historically. So perhaps that's one of the reasons two things kind of flattened out the way they did.
Okay.
Plus, we've got some, potential concerns moving forward with tariffs and whatnot. So
Right.
and working in the tech industry, it's going to affect, a lot of different companies and a lot of different industries globally, right?
Right.
In fact, I have a friend of mine who lives in Spain, and she said, your election is actually a global election. Your election affects all of us. So I go, wow, that's an important statement because since then we've heard other people say that, so.
Right. No, we're just the biggest consumer in the world, right? The U.S. has a lot of monetary weight, so our economy is definitely impactful.
Definitely.
So tell me a little bit about the sizes of your clients, and as well as the different industries.
The size of our clients can be anywhere from a startup. We just did some work for a really small company in Tulsa, Oklahoma this summer, as an example, all the way up to big companies like Intel is our client of ours. So that, which is a name everybody recognizes, or Medtronic, a big medical device client.
Yep.
We've worked with renewable energy clients. So, I mean, it varies. I mean, we're kind of agnostic. We don't really have any specialty. I've always said that if you are a good recruiter, you can work in any industry. You just have to know the right questions to ask, in order to be successful in your search efforts.
Okay, interesting. So there's not really a niche, but there's
skill.
There's competency.
Yeah, competency, skill, experience.
Right.
So when I started recruiting, we didn't even have the internet yet. So I've seen a lot of us that have been in this business as long as I have seen a lot of different transitions, if you would, especially with technology. And now people are very afraid of AI. And so another fear factor is coming up around AI. And those of us who've been in this business a long time say there's nothing to fear. Make sure that you learn it.
Right.
Because, I mean, it's staying.
Understand it. Yeah.
Yeah. So don't fight it. Lean into it, learn what you can. I mean, I love Gemini. I sent Gemini 10 questions to ask me so that it would get to know me.
Okay.
And I sent the questions to Gemini. And it was a suggestion that somebody had given, I think, on a webinar. I thought, oh, that's a really great idea. So I type up my little questions, send it to Gemini, and Gemini responds and asked me the questions, and I gave the answers, and so now I get to know you better. And honestly, my relationship with Gemini, it's almost like the platform is my own personal assistant.
Yep.
I can ask it to do a lot of things now. So I personally have leaned into it. And this is somebody, and I started my career without even using the internet. I was using manila folders and thought I was hot stuff with a fax machine, right? So
you were. The fax machine was pretty cool when it came out.
Hey, it rocked, But I mean, seriously, so, just you have to lean into the new technology. And I love some of the people I've interviewed, Tim, over the last year, who have given some great advice and sound bits on how to work with AI and how to work with the new technology.
Right.
Make sure that you start out small. See what's going to work for you. You don't have to chase the bling, as one woman said. Or the shiny object that might be coming out new. Start out small and see what works for your company, that fits your budget better. And then kind of grow your tech stack from there if you need to. But a lot of companies, are coming out. There's a lot of software coming out that we're all being inundated with the ads, and people are wanting us to try their software and whatnot. I know in our industry that's the case. But what's kind of cool is you can try it out and see, maybe later, but right now, this is what's working for me this year, right? Taking the tutorials, learning all of the different applications, learning what you're going to need to know. Also offloading some of your redundant tasks for AI. That's one thing I love about Gemini, and ChatGPT is the same way. And there's another one called I have Copilot. Copilot is,
Microsoft. Yeah.
Exactly. So once that AI gets to know you, you can offload a lot of your redundant tasks. Like, for example, writing job descriptions, because we do a lot of that in my business, right?
Okay.
Or rewriting people's resumes. Or if you need to send an email and you're trying to think, how do I word this email? Just pop it into AI and it will give you some suggestions on great ways to, write the email. And it'll even be humorous. If you tell, hey, throw some humor in there, it'll be humorous. So I think it's important that we learn, that we lean into it. And no one's going to lose their job as long as you're staying current. But I think it's been that way with all technology.
Right.
Knowledge is power, as they say. Yeah.
Right. So do you work on both sides of the relationship? Do you help people get placed as well as help companies find people? So can you talk to us a little about that? Explain maybe advice for companies and for people how to best work with you.
So with helping people find positions, oftentimes people are referred to me by a colleague or somebody that knows me, right? And I'm happy to help with suggestions, doing some counseling, coaching. Oftentimes they need their resume rewritten. I rewrite resumes all the time. I do charge for that, but I do charge for some of the coaching that I do as well. But if people want to contact me, I'm happy to coach, to give advice. Somebody contacted me today and said, hey, can you help me with my resume? And this person has done like 4 completely different careers in his history. And so I sent him back a note in his career history, and I sent him back a note and I said, wow, you've got like 4 separate careers, from military, all the cybersecurity, military, and there was 2 others. And I said, we need to talk because we need to decide who is it you want this resume to go out to?
Yeah.
Right.
I need a coherent story.
Right. And exactly. So, because I think that people forget, our resume isn't just some chronological map of where we've been. You have to say, where's it you want to go? Who is it you're wanting to work for? Are you wanting to change your career? If so, you need to target your resume towards that, right? So resume writing can be an art form in itself, and if you're not used to it, hiring somebody to help you write a resume and to coach you on how to look for positions. And I'll give you an example. So let's say that people keep complaining all the time, oh, my resume just falls into a black hole. Well, yeah, it probably does. So have you gone into LinkedIn and looked, for example, Intel? Have you looked at the Intel or at LinkedIn to find the Intel person that would most likely be the hiring manager for the role that you just picked, right? Or that you just applied for. And so if you go and contact that person and say, hey, I just applied for this position, not sure if you're the hiring manager or not, but it looks like you're in that area. I want to introduce myself. I want to attach a copy of my resume here.
Be a go-getter.
Go and get it. I have met so many people and spoken with so many people afterwards who've said, I did that and I landed my job. Because I did. And it's not that much harder. It's not that much harder to do. Not only that, but you're making these connections and you're expanding your LinkedIn network or your professional network, right? Especially when people respond back to you. Not everyone's going to respond, but you have you're increasing your chances of landing that position if you take that one extra step. So that's one of the things I try to coach people on as well.
And interviewing, do you coach how to interview and things as well?
Yes. And interviewing, yes. And that's why I think it's important for companies to use outside recruiters. Internal recruiters, people can be a little daunted by them because they work for that company.
Oh, conflict of interest or just a culture difference and stuff, which you can maybe have a different point of view on, which it can be good.
Exactly. So with working with a third-party recruiter, when I contact a candidate, and let's say, for example, that candidate had a bad experience with their recent or current employer, and they're kind of, venting. And so you listen, and as the recruiter, say, hey, I appreciate
your therapy hat on.
Yeah, I appreciate everything you just told me. However, I would really warn against and suggest that you don't share that kind of information with, during another interview with this company. If we get to the later stages and you feel it's important for that employer to know more about your current situation, we can talk about it then. But I would hold off, and here are the things I would share during the interview, but there are things you don't want to share up front. It's almost like going on a first date and oversharing during a first date. And then you scare the person off. Well, same thing with interviewing, right? You don't want to scare off an employer by oversharing, on certain circumstances or events that may have happened that you think are critical to share, but maybe they're not yet. Right.
How about the other side of the coin then? How about for those hiring?
The hiring managers, they're harder. That's the harder, because they want what they want. And sometimes you have to learn how to arm wrestle really, really well. I had one guy come into my office years ago and he said, okay, so here is what I need this engineer to have. It was a test engineer position. And he gives me this laundry list. I'm reading through it and I said, so does he need to also have red hair and freckles, or he or she need to have red hair and freckles?
It seems like they already have somebody involved already. Some of those job descriptions are written tailored specifically, so only one person will fit it.
Yeah. One person isn't born yet, right? So I said, does this person need to have red hair and freckles too? And he said, no, but they need to know how to play pool and drink beer. So he caught my sarcasm, right?
Yeah.
So I said, we need to cut your list down here. Give me your 3 must-haves, and then we're going to build your requirements around that. In fact, it's funny, but I spoke with another recruiter today, and he's going to do a podcast with me, and we're going to talk about on our podcast about hiring managers who only want you to recruit people out of their competitors, right? And maybe there's only 3 competitors. And they're just dogmatic about, nope, I need these people to come out of this company because only those companies do what we do, and blah, blah, blah. So how much time are those employers wasting looking for those people with just those skills and working for, working for competitors? So they wind up wasting a lot of time and money because they're not getting the person hired. So then you have to have that, you have to kind of enter into some very strategic talent sessions with the hiring teams in order to really but I think too, sharing with them what the candidate pool looks like. That's one thing I'm grateful to LinkedIn for. I pay the extra money for the big expensive LinkedIn account. So I tell people there's a thing called Talent Insights that will show you how many people fit the skills that you're looking for and where they're located. So I think when you share information with hiring managers and you give them that bird's eye view of what you see as a recruiter, then it kind of helps to,
You bring up some interesting points to me about attributes or skill sets and the different philosophies of hiring people who already know your industry and how maybe they may hit the ground running, but they're not going to bring a lot of new ideas.
Bingo.
As well as the nature of maybe it's different generations and stuff nowadays. I keep hearing over and over again how most people don't care about that. They want work ethic and that first, and then we'll train you, the skills for the job. But that's one of the bigger challenges right now is finding people with the right culture and mindset and work ethic for any position. Can you speak to those things?
So I know you bring up some amazing points. In fact, there was a woman, I just listened to her earlier, and she was talking about transferable skills. And in fact, I think she's selling some sort of a program on how employers can identify transferable skills in candidates, either employees that they have internally and move them around to different positions, right?
Put them in the right seat. Yeah.
Put them in the right seat. They call that internal mobility. Or looking out externally at the candidates that are out there and being able to really look at their skills and what's transferable and what's applicable, right? And again, someone mentioned to me years ago that the technical qualifications that somebody possesses for a skill is about 40% when you're looking at hiring somebody, but the cultural fit with the company is about 60%.
Right.
Because if you look at, like you said, what they bring to the table, what their attributes are, what their character and personality assets are, for the company. How well are they going to fit with the culture of the company and the team that they're going to be working with? And, what are their motivations? What are their goals? That's something else too that we need to understand with people that we hire. Are they, there's called the ABCs. This one guy wrote this book. It's called The Employee Retention Bible. In fact, I just interviewed him today. And in his book, he talks about the A players in your company, those who want to fast track and advance their careers. Then there's the other people who are happy staying in their existing roles that you hired them for any number of years. They don't necessarily want to fast track. They kind of like, the status quo, if you would, of the job that they're doing. And then you've got the others who you need to motivate more. You need to kind of help them find their mojo and whatever they're going to be doing, and the roles that they're in or want to be in. Maybe help them find the roles that they want to be in is perhaps how I need to say that. But anyhow, so there's these ABC, if you break out all your employees into ABC groups, it helps you then to know how to work with those people, what motivates them, right? What their skills are. And again, what's transferable between departments and bringing new people in. So it's something it's going to be a conversation, an ever increasing conversation, especially with AI. Something else too that we all have to be on the lookout for are people who are writing resumes or letting AI write their resumes, but they don't necessarily have the skills that are on the resume. So another thing that we have to watch out for as employers and also as recruiters are legitimate resumes and those skills. You have
to start verifying resumes and calling their referrals or something more.
Calling referrals, but also running tests. We're going to have to do some testing, right? Okay. To make sure that people understand that their skills match what they say that they can do, right? Okay. So, and testing can be any number, where you may have them bring a presentation. Let's say it's a sales and marketing person that you're hiring for, because they're not technical necessarily.
Right.
So you might have them bring a presentation and present to you and to your team. So that's kind of a test, right?
Sure.
And then that way, then you can determine from the way that they present whether or not they really have the skills that they say they have.
Sure. And those skills, particularly the people skills, in light of all the technological advances and AI and stuff, are becoming increasingly valuable. Is that what you're seeing as well?
Yes. Definitely.
The human skills?
The human skills, exactly. Yeah. We call it human centricity. Yeah.
I've heard IQ may get you hired, but EQ will get you promoted.
Yeah. Emotional intelligence. Yeah. I guess they're calling that. I don't know where they got the EQ from emotional intelligence, but I guess
Yeah. There's a lot of those abbreviations don't make sense. ID is one that always bothered me.
ID?
Identification.
Identification. Yeah. I'm thinking of DEI or something like that. Yeah, ID. Is that a new one? So ID. Okay, got it.
Emotional quotient. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. But no, in fact, I just did a brief call yesterday. We wound up having technical issues with a company called Purple Acorn. And we talked about, let's see, what was our discussion on? I want to say, it's called Balancing Human Touch and Technology was the discussion we had yesterday.
Purple Acorn is it strikes you because it's unique, but it doesn't make me excited.
Well, and the reason
it's bad, like an acorn gone bad. Okay, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, it comes from the term purple squirrel. So in our industry, if you're given a very hard search to work on, and our website actually has some case studies there. One in particular where we had to go and find a tissue sourcing specialist who understood the pig farming industry because our client at the time was Medtronic and they needed a tissue sourcing specialist who knew all these different pig farms that raise a special kind of pig, right? That has a special kind of heart in it that we use for human heart transplants. Well, I didn't know that there were these special pigs. And so you learn all about this, search, right? And it's a one-off search. You're never going to probably wind up doing it again. So they call that a purple squirrel search.
Okay, that makes sense.
Squirrel.
Okay,
so that's where the purple acorn, I think.
Okay. Thank you for the context for that. That makes me like the purple acorn more.
Certainly.
It's pretty special. I used to think the white squirrels were pretty special because they're albinos and they're pretty rare. But a purple
They're
one,
very,
that's even more rare. So
yeah,
that's
yeah,
funny.
exactly.
And for people who may not know, our listeners, just a bit of the biomedical background. Pigs have a very similar immune profile to us, so they have a lot of tissue and organ compatibility, and there's a lot of great tests we can do that instead of having to do it on human tissues, you can do it on a lot of special pig tissue. So
Yeah.
that's a thing.
I know. I had no idea. I had no idea until we got our purple squirrel search, for, yeah. And the last I heard that the woman we hired for that role is still there. So obviously they've kept her happy and
Okay.
she's still working with pig farmers. And yeah, it's
Okay.
quite an interesting area of medical device technology.
Right. Okay. So tell me a little bit more about what sets you apart in this industry.
I think just a year's experience,
Okay.
our connections. The
That's
longer
big.
you're in this business, the longer you stay in this business, the more people you meet. You have a more vast network. When I started recruiting many years ago, the executive search firms thought that they were kind of in this elitist group because they had their Rolodex of who's who, in every corner
Yeah.
that they wanted to recruit in. Well, now with the internet, all of a sudden we've all of us have come up to speed. We all have access to that same data. I don't know why people are still working with the really expensive search firms. I think it's more about pomp and circumstance than anything else. But it's all good. There's room for everybody. I think that with just the time in the business, the people that we've hired to help support us when we get really super busy with our clients, I know the people I can reach out to right now who are going to want to come and work with us on projects and help our clients out. So just having my own network,
Right.
professional
Sure.
network has been, I think, super helpful.
I'm
I
sure.
think too, even though I did not target the semiconductor industry, it kind of targeted us. It's almost like, I always say, it's almost like in the Harry Potter movies where he says, the wand picks you, you don't pick the wand,
Right.
And I think that's kind of how it was with us in semiconductor. I had worked for Motorola early in my career. And Motorola here in Arizona was Arizona's largest private employer for many years. Well, They did government electronics. They did semiconductor components. They did the chips. So they had, 19, 20,000 employees here, right? Then they started selling off their businesses. And so their components division became On Semiconductor, which it still is even now to this day. Their chip manufacturing business was sold off to, I think, Freescale at the time, and now it's NXP. And I don't know, there's all sorts of gyrations have happened there. And then their government electronics group went to General Dynamics. So all those people that we supported in that large company now were moving out to different industries, but some of them stayed in semiconductor. And I think that's where the industry picked us because those people that we had worked with were calling us to come back and help them. And that just happened to be that particular industry. So.
Okay. Getting the right people in there is crazy important and it's such a valuable skill. What advice do you have for the bigger places that may be struggling to hire, as well as the startups who don't know better? Even what are some of the first steps or things they should do?
Well, they need to look at their internal team first and see how they can help their internal team not get burnout. For example, as things ramp back up this year, let's say you are a large company with 12,000 employees, and let's say you have a talent acquisition team of 25 or 30 people. Well, in order to not burn those people out and keep them, working a work-life balance that, is amenable to everybody, you need to bring in some resources for them. So that's where bringing in companies like ours to help support those teams is going to be super helpful. You can bring in more people, hire more people into your organization, but then you may not need them a year from now, or 2 years from now, once you've done all your hiring. So, and I had one client a couple of years ago who loved a couple of my employees, and so they wound up hiring them. I mean, we worked out a deal with them, but they do every so often want to hire your employees because they like them so much.
Sure.
So there are those contingencies as well. But for the most part, if you hire a team of people that's external, as your hiring ramp slows down, you can just kind of roll that company off and you don't have the layoff issues. But support your own internal team. Look at who your team is. Again, like you were talking about, what are their strengths? Help find resources that are going to help them to help themselves, right, in their own
Sure.
roles with your company.
Yeah, develop them alongside
Yeah.
you.
Also,
sure.
building partnerships with the hiring teams, like we were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Having that right partnership with the hiring team. I went to a LinkedIn conference many years ago, and one of the workshop presenters made a comment. He said, have you ever had a hiring manager? It's almost like they roll up the job description and launch it over the wall to you, say, here, go fill this position for me. And you open it up, and you're like, well, wait a minute, though. This is your position. It's not mine. Are we supposed to do this together? Right? So having that clarity with that hiring manager of what your role is, it's a partnership. They're not doing a handoff to you to go fill the position. They're partnering with you on getting that position filled.
Okay.
So there's a lot of give and take. And so establishing that relationship up front is very important, I think, as well. So I think those are kind of the starting places, regardless of the size of the company.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that. So it sounds like things are going well for you. One thing I like to ask business owners as they're looking towards the future is how they can maybe create some passive income to enhance or even replace their current active income at some point. What are your thoughts on that?
There's a lot of different options out there. Like I was telling you, there was a guy that I talked to about the franchising business. So, I know that working for large companies, of course, are supplying people with target bonus programs. They have RSUs, but again, those are all tied to the company. For external opportunities, I'm not sure. Okay.
So some people, right, they like to diversify, they have different streams of income for retirement. So you start dialing back their time, right? And maybe have an exit for the business, right? And or just get more hands off.
Right.
Right. So do you have plans for different streams of income, or do you have sort of a big exit you're planning at any point for the agency?
No, what I'll probably do, with my own company is probably take a backseat to it at some point, or I don't know if I would sell it. Maybe, it's hard to say right now. I do have people who contact me from time to time and say, hey, are you interested in selling your business? I'm like, not quite yet. Right.
Okay.
But
I've had a number of people on the podcast recently who that's their specialties. They work with businesses to prepare them for 5-10 year down the road sales and so forth. So I didn't ever really think about that coming from academia. That was never on my radar, but I'm starting to see a lot of people as people trade these companies and stuff, and they buy and sell them a lot more than I thought they did.
Oh, it's interesting. 12% interest if you're a business broker to sell someone's business for them. And maybe even higher. 12, I think the last number I heard was between 12% was the low end, 16% I think is the high end.
Wow.
I bought and sold 2 businesses when I was younger.
Okay.
My first business was a swimming pool cleaning business. And I had that for a couple of years, and I sold it and bought a pest control exterminating business.
Okay.
That was a very interesting business. You have to be licensed.
I have investors who have sold both of those industries.
Really? Yeah. That's very interesting. But that was my last business before I got into recruiting, actually. In fact, I had sold that business and then took a job with the newspaper, when I met the guy that I was telling you about, who said, hey, what are you doing at the funeral? And told me about recruiting later. But the pest control business and the pool swimming, the cleaning business bought both of those businesses and sold both of them through a business broker. Okay. So that's interesting that you talk. But one good thing about doing that though is it helps you to keep a clean set of books. It helps you to maintain your books.
Yes, sure.
It helps you to stay current with your accountant, bookkeeper, whatnot. Because at any point in time, if you do decide you want to sell your business and bail out, then it's ready to go, right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people, though, too, Tim, that I know that are doing consulting now. They don't want to get out of, they're baby boomers. They don't want to quit working. So they're writing books, they're consulting, doing sideline work like that as well.
Right.
I see a lot of people, moving in those directions.
When you mentioned the getting recruited at a funeral, it made me wonder if you were being whoever passed away had a position open now or something like that. I thought there was maybe a bit of a joke there.
No, it was my ex-father-in-law. Yeah, no, it was my ex-father-in-law, and it was my former brother-in-law who I hadn't seen in a long time, and he had been in the recruiting business and brought me into it. So,
okay. So as we're wrapping up the interview, I was wondering if you had any initiatives in the next or any exciting plans in the next 12 months.
Work related, probably just to go back out and get, some maybe new business now. Hoping to kind of see what's going to be trending, because that's always important. Our EV is going to trend this year, renewable energy products, med device, tech, healthcare, government. Some people say that government's supposed to pick back up for government jobs. And we have a contract here in the state of Arizona. We are an awarded vendor, second 5-year award that we have. So we're able then to work with all of the different Arizona state agencies and universities. Yeah.
Okay.
So probably, expanding into those territories a little more, because I think those territories are going to be, or those areas are going to be increasing as well, from what I understand.
Right. Yeah, this market's booming. That's why Phoenix Prosperity Podcast. This is one reason why some of our investments are here, because it's just in multifamily. We generally focus on markets where there are quality job growth, and that's here. So
definitely. And you have, the semiconductor industry that's booming here. I know that in North Phoenix, there is TSMC, the big semiconductor plant up there that's just been put in the last few years. And they're building an entire new community out there. What used to be desert is now like this huge community.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
Okay. Well, Denise, thank you very much. Is there, if people want to learn more or connect with you, what should they do?
You can find me on LinkedIn, just with my name, Denise Chaffin. My company is TopSource Talent, LLC. My podcast is Talking TA. And so talkingta.com. My website is topsourcetalentllc.com. And I'm here in Phoenix.
All right. Excellent.
All right, Tim.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching. Thank you, Denise, for joining me today. We appreciate you sharing your story and insights into success and hiring and placement in not just Phoenix, but the world. That's great stuff.
Globally.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Tim.
Inspired by our guests? Visit PhoenixProsperityPodcast.com/guest and join us on the show and share your success story with Tim. The spotlight awaits.